The views and opinions
and otherwise wisecrack remarks
in this podcast
are solely those
of our highly caffeinated hosts.
They do not represent the opinions
of Fairchild Air Force Base leadership,
the 92nd Public Affairs Office,
or the United States Air Force.
Any reference to commercial products, companies, or services does not imply federal endorsement.
You've been warned.
Boom, 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 boom.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Come on, here comes the ready or not.
Welcome to The Boom. For those of you following along at home, we are now in our 6th episode. And for those of you who are new to The Boom, you can find us in all kinds of different locations. You can find us on our Fairchild Facebook page. You can find us on our Fairchild public website, fairchild.af.mil, as in Air Force and military. You can find us on iTunes. Search The Boom Fairchild, and you'll find all our other previous podcasts. So, busy week here at Fairchild, meaning I've been running around all frazzled and trying to get all kinds of extra things done because not only, as I'm sure a lot of you know, not only do we have our own jobs that we do here in the Air Force, but we also have those additional duties. Sometimes they feel like full-time additional duties, you know what I'm saying? So, that being said, I've gathered as much news and headlines that I can from across the Air Force as well as Fairchild, and I've compiled them together here for you. And once again, without further ado, let's get it started. And now the news, according to us. What to do first? Funny news or serious news? Some of the news that is serious can be seriously funny. But let's see if I can make a joke out of this. All right, U.S. and South Korea are going to scrap the 2015 transfer plan. So although the wartime OPCON is scheduled to transfer to Seoul in December of 2015, now the U.S. and South Korea are expected to delay the handover for a not once, not twice, but 3 times a lady. A prospect that has some current and former South Korean defense officials breathing a huge sigh of relief. Why? Because we've been doing it for them for 50 plus years. Why leave a good thing, right? It's kind of funny that they say this kill chain, this system of their military capabilities, probably missiles and whatnot, takes several years to develop. So they're just thinking now, we were supposed to have a plan ready for when the Americans left next year in 2015. I guess we're supposed to take the training wheels off? But then again, if you've never ridden a bike even with the training wheels on, what's the point? Is it too late to maybe just annex South Korea as one of our territories, considering we're going to be there for so long? I'm just saying. In other news, the Air Force has given the Airman's Medal to a guardsman for saving a life, which is good because the Airman's Medal is one of the higher awards given by the Air Force for risk-taking heroism in a non-combat situation. The medal ranks higher than the Bronze Star and just under the Distinguished Flying Cross. And the saving of the life didn't happen just yesterday or last week, not even last year. This happened 2 years ago. Well, why is the Air Force just getting around to it now? Well, this amazing tech sergeant, Sean Rucker, from, I believe, the Kansas Air National Guard, is a very humble guy. And he saved a woman's life 2 years ago by running into a house full of flames and smoke and carried out a 78-year-old woman, all while filling his own lungs with smoke and pieces of the house falling down around him. And then he went about his day as if nothing happened. It wasn't until the Kansas Air National Guard started hearing of these reports and family members of the victim that he saved talking about it. Honestly, great on the guy. From my understanding and of what I've heard, he was uncomfortable in the ceremony. Like I said, very humble guy, just doing what he thinks any of us would do and we know how to do. And at the end of the ceremony, it was actually a high-ranking official who pinned the medal on his chest. And after the ceremony, they told him, go ahead, take the rest of the day off. I think they were trying to be funny, but quite honestly, I would say, hey, he's guard. Give him a couple of weekend guard duties off. Awesome things being done by Air Force, whether they be active duty, reservists, or guard. But one thing that's not awesome is an airman who went home for leave and got himself into trouble with local law. Here is where it gets crazy. He didn't get in trouble with the law for, B&E, breaking and entering, or DUI, or anything serious to that matter. This airman decided to give a double wet willy to a police officer on duty.
A little too far, crossed the line.
But apparently when this airman, and I'm not going to give his name, but when he was home for leave in the Minnesota area, he was out getting rowdy and whatnot with some of his friends because their wedding was coming up, not his own, mind you. And the drunk bus, I guess some towns still do something called the drunk bus where they pick up all the people who've had a little bit too much to drink and are getting a little rowdy. And this airman, decided to lick his fingers and give the officer a double wet willy. Well, he was taken to the drink tank, the think tank for those who have done stupid things down at the local jail. And his sentence was basically, it was a misdemeanor, and he was sentenced to 3 days that he already had spent in the jail and told to pay less than $100 in court costs. So, lessons to be learned. Just because we're in the military doesn't mean we can go around just giving wet willies to anybody. I mean, maybe he thought it was a friendly gesture. Hey, as a law enforcement person and I'm a military person and we both serve our country in one way or another, let me just thank you by licking my fingers and sticking them in your ear. But even crazier, and I touched upon this in a couple of podcasts ago about people wearing military uniform, ranks, ribbons, whatnot as a sign of fashion and to be cool, per se. Well, obviously, I think we all have run into somebody in our lifetime that goes about wearing the uniform, impersonating the military to get special privileges and attention, and they're just going about it all wrong because they think the more stuff that they put on, the more decked out they are, the more they'll be taken seriously. Well, anyways, in New York, a man was parading around a county fair on Veterans Appreciation Day over the summer, pretending to be a Marine Corps, wearing the dress blue uniform complete with a sword. When he stopped to chat with two young Marines who were out of uniform, and they, out of respect for his alleged rank, approached him to say hello and chat with him, they immediately noticed his uniform wasn't quite in order. He had a white cord draped over his shoulder, which had no place being there. There were way too many medals and ribbons on his chest, and they were displayed improperly. And not to mention the sword he carried was not the type issued to a non-commissioned officer. He claimed to be the rank of staff sergeant, and it just didn't add up given the length of time that he claimed he was a Marine. So the actual Marines took photos, and gave them to the New York State Troopers. And this guy, this 47-year-old, is facing 2 charges of second-degree criminal impersonation of a member of the U.S. Department of Defense. Now, some of you are probably like, well, I haven't heard of such a thing, and that is because it is a New York State military law. So some states have their own laws regarding people basically being, I could use the word scum and some other words, trying to impersonate us in uniform. The ironic thing was, when they checked into this guy, he actually had served with honor in the United States Navy. But I guess when he got out, he thought, I need to be tougher than a sailor, and I'm going to call myself a Marine, and nobody's going to know the difference when I stack up all these ribbons and just look all bling-bling in my military uniform. But quite honestly, I think the public is starting to be able to discern and point out their own fakers. So it's nice to know that there is a New York State military law that will arrest and charge people who are impersonating military and Department of Defense officials, even if they're not being specific. It wasn't like he was walking around saying, I'm the Secretary of Defense, but he was trying to impersonate that he was a member of the Marine Corps. Now, some of you out there are like, oh, it's a freedom of expression, whatever else like that. I'm sorry, but that's not my opinion on the matter. But speaking of opinions, here's a long topic. Here's something I wish we could all talk about and actually do something about. So the question, and if you'd like to get back to me, leave a comment either in the YouTube postings of this podcast. You can find us on our Facebook and leave us a comment. But here it is. If you could change one AFI, what would it be? Now, I'm willing to bet that a lot of you would use AFI 362903. That's right, dress and appearance. I believe everybody has some beef with something in there. For instance, if we were to revamp 2903, why not do something about our facial hair as guys? For instance, a well-kept beard does not necessarily deem oneself unprofessional. Or two, if you're working in a place like Minot, first of all, my thoughts go out to you, and are already wearing gloves and your hands are still going stiff, you might be able to put them in pockets. I'm sure all the maintainers will agree with me here. Allow black boots, black shirts, and black belt to be used with the current ABU uniform, because the green sage boots are disaster on wheels for anybody who's working out there on the flight line. In my opinion, modernizing the current 362903 really could be a great recruiting and retention tool, because people will start to see the Air Force as an organization that is trying to maintain its relevancy to the current day and age. Lumped in that category, tattoos. I mean, who cares? Everybody's got tattoos. Tattoos kind of are this, I don't know, rites of passage, but it definitely, when you think of somebody who's all tatted up, you think he's a tough person. He's in the military. I mean, if females can wear makeup to stand out, then why can't a guy have an arm sleeve and just change the type of blues that he wears to cover it up? We already mentioned the hands in the pockets just a second ago. If we can't put our hands in our pockets, we've got no other choice but to stick them under our armpits and get them all warmed up, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, come on. That's professional looking, right? What about wearing fleece indoors? I mean, the AFI says that the sage green fleece should not be worn indoors unless deemed okay by your installation commander, because you might be living in a building or working in a building that is just bitterly cold. But there's nothing wrong with wearing the fleece inside, I think, in my opinion. Speaking of wearing things, what about bringing back the organizational baseball caps? And instead of the blues cap, that I like wearing blues from the neck down. Once I put that cap on, I feel like what is the function of our blues cap? Are we to be more streamlined when it's windy? Because I tell you, when that wind picks up, it doesn't stay on my head anyways. Other than a ceremonial look or tradition, it really serves no purpose, and it looks just awful. I'm sure all the other services would agree with me as well, because I think the Navy, maybe a couple of the Army guys, they have to wear the same style hats, just a different color. But caps with bills, or, what do they call it? The bus driver cap? I'm okay with it. Anything over the other cap that we're wearing. Wearing earphones in uniform. I was sitting at my desk the other day doing some additional duty work, and I really needed to concentrate. And being in the PA office, it gets loud. We've got telephone calls, we've got discussions going on. There's about 12 of us all in one big room, and it can get loud. So I throw on my headphones, I've got some music playing in the background, and I feel I can concentrate and get more work done more efficiently and faster. So someone higher ranked said, unless we're transcribing something, it's really frowned upon. And I understand if you're walking around or doing something really important that needs to be paid attention to, but the AFI is saying you can't use them in uniform at all unless it's really specifically job related. I'd prefer if we could just change to cannot be used while walking, bebopping down the street, but can be used while sitting stationary to help with work efficiency. I'm all for it. Now, switching gears, a lot of what I've said, beard waiver and things, tend to be more male-centric. What I've heard from the females is they would love to wear their hair down and even, be able to wear ponytails and not just in PT gear. I've heard some females say they don't understand why they can't wear their hair down. In most situations, it doesn't look unprofessional or it doesn't really even look more professional when a woman's hair is up. Plus, the females, I've heard plenty of times they have quite the headache from wearing their hair up and so tight that they could look just as professional with longer hair, just done differently. Here's an AFI change. It has to deal with an AFI that deals with the tobacco use. Vaping should no longer be included with tobacco. Basically, the AFI state that vaping, even though it has no smoke, isn't really a tobacco product. And that doesn't mean you go around vaping inside your offices. They just want somewhere else they can go instead of standing outside in the cold with the rest of the smokers. Because when they vape, they smell like bananas or cinnamon or whatever their flavor is, but the smokers smell like smoke. So that begs the question, what AFI would you want to change? So speaking of change, things are bound to change here within the boom. I myself probably will be moving on as the N2IC of PA. I've got a lot of various things on my plate. Staff Sergeant Ayers should be back from TDY next week. And on top of that, we're getting a new senior airman in pretty soon, and she will probably be taking charge of the podcasts, and she has a lot of radio experience coming over from Korea. Also next week, we're going to have a special guest on the podcast. That special guest, kind of a local celebrity, actually local Creme 2 news reporter and anchor Laura Papetti will be on the boom next week to talk about treats to troops. That's right, it's that time of year again when Spokane community and Team Fairchild get together and package up care packages to send off to our brothers and sisters who are deployed right now. So definitely stick around for next week's podcast when Creme 2's Laura Papetti will be on. That'll be the first sign of more guest speakers coming to the boom. We hope to have Command Chief Master Sergeant Pugh on within the next couple of episodes. Might even get Colonel McDaniel on to give us his point of view of Team Fairchild and the way and the direction in which he envisions Fairchild going. So I think we're getting the hang of this here at the boom. Like to hear more from you because obviously without hearing your thoughts, your ideas, your comments, I feel like it's just me and this microphone in this really small room, just all to myself. And it's very funny because as I'm saying this, it's like I'm just talking to myself. If somebody were to walk in, they'd probably be thinking I'm crazy. Well, before we go, just real quick, the Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training, also known as ASSIST, will be held next week, October 30th and 31st at the Base Chapel. Sessions run all day from 08 to 16:30, and the dress is civilian attire and food will be provided. There's absolutely no cost, and all materials will be provided. Telling you, this 2-day suicide awareness and intervention course, really good to have in your toolbox, so to speak, for being able to assist those that you work with or know of that might be considering suicide or showing evidence of suicidal ideations. During the 2 days of this class, participants will basically have the opportunity to practically apply assessment and intervention skills using the suicide intervention model as they work through different scenarios. It's open to military and civilian personnel and dependents as well. To sign up, you need to contact the chapel at 247-2264. If you have any questions, contact Tech Sergeant Barkauer or Chaplain Solheim at the chapel. Definitely a good 2 days that can help out the lifetime of someone you know. You actually, by using these skills and going to these 2 days, you may save someone's life. So definitely get in contact with the chapel and sign up for ASIST, the Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Training. Well, I think the busy week has kept my topics short and brief, as well as this podcast. So tune in next time. Again, we're going to have a special guest. We may even have a different host because after a while, you just can only take so much of one person talking. I myself am definitely looking back to my co-host, Staff Sergeant Ayers, coming back. But until next time, Team Fairchild, Spokane, and whoever else is listening, tell your friends, tell your coworkers that you listen to The Boom.